One consequence of the incestuous relationship between our political and media class is that if you're an Eton-educated Prime Minister, it's not just political allies that will defend you on air, but well-known family members. What's more, said family members might not be challenged by an interviewer when they make those defences, because they host the show themselves. This is Rachel Johnson on LBC.
As you might have guessed, it hasn't been the quietest, calmest of weeks. In the Johnson family, and lots of broadcasters, BBC among them, have asked me to contribute on events across Westminster and of course, the repercussions across the country. And I haven't said anything because I talk to you, LBC listeners. I take your calls. And what I say, I want to say to you. And I know that what I'm going to say is going to sound a bit strange, but I didn't see much of the Prime Minister and his family during lockdown. But the times I did see him, he was completely compliant. He dotted every I, he crossed every T. If it was rule of six, there were six. And what I didn't see was all the things that you've been reading about. For example, his birthday, it was me, my three brothers, Carrie and Wilf. That was six people. And I have to tell you something else about my brother's character. I mean, you've been seeing, obviously, the front pages couldn't have been worse. You know, suitcases of booze going into Downing Street from the Co-op on the Strand. I can tell you from the bottom of my heart that he has never once turned to me or any member of my family and said, I tell you what, let's have an office party. Or I tell you what, let's have a party. I mean, if anything, he would say, let's play reading when we were growing up or even in our 20s. Or let's play who can memorize the most poems from the Oxford Book of Verse as that, you know, who can memorize the most. And of course, it was always him. Look, I'm just telling you what I saw. I'm just telling you what I saw over lockdown and what I know of my brother's character. And to my mind, if he did go out into the garden, and he's told us he did, for him, that would have been work. He may have had a drink. I don't know. Is that one of the key questions? But that would have been work.
So because Boris Johnson never asked his family members to have a party, he doesn't like parties and therefore wouldn't have attended one in Downing Street, whatever images we've seen. Also, the most important question for me, Ash, what is playing reading? And what is playing reading as something that someone would do in their 20s? Let's play reading.
I'll tell you what it's playing. It's playing All of Us for Fools, Michael. It's one of those absurd lies that it can't even come out of the mouth fully formed. Do you know what I mean? It's like, he loved playing. Okay, not chess. Nobody will believe that. Football. Okay, no. Rugby. Oh, it's just going to remind them of that time that he, completely clattered a child. Reading. He loved playing the game of reading, and he always won the game of reading. I don't think I've got much to say about that particular LBC statement because all of our viewers can see it for what it is, which is a grotesque form of solidarity, because this, for the Johnsons, is a family business. You have Stanley Johnson, who has been presented as a sort of paterfamilias for the Conservative Party, purely because he's Boris Johnson's father and, he's stood for office and failed a couple of times. Rachel Johnson has had her media career revived off the back of her brother. And while I haven't met the entirety of the Johnson clan, I mean, God knows how many there are, I have actually had to spend a bit of time with Stanley Johnson, and I've met Rachel Johnson. And they are, I'm sorry to say, completely ghastly. And that's not because they're discourteous. It's not because they're impolite. It's because I've never seen people more magnetically attracted to the presence of a camera, because it gives them the opportunity to sort of bloviate across the place and project how important and well connected they are. And oh, darling, and oh, this, and oh, that. It's honestly, there aren't that many people who generally make my skin crawl. That you know, there are plenty of people I've met who are my political opponents. There are plenty of people I've met doing media and I've gone, I really hate what you stand for. And I think ultimately you're an agent of evil. But it is rare to see people so nakedly in it for their own self-advancement and for the self-advancement of their family. It is, you know, pure sleazy showbiz. That's all there is to it. And with, you know, Boris on the rocks, I wouldn't be surprised if Rachel Johnson's thinking, well, okay, how much more time do I have as, you know, host of this LBC spot? Who's going to want to talk to me when my brother's not the prime minister anymore? And that's the reason for the defence. It's not because, you know, Boris Johnson is a uniquely intellectual powerhouse whose favourite pastime is to read from the Oxford Book of Verse, you know, picking a verse from Wordsworth and going, what's that then?
The thing that you can do that most clearly means that you're sort of like an attention seeker who just loves being listened to and loves being watched is if you are willing to insert yourself in any story, however grim, however much a normal human being would want absolutely nothing to do with it. And Rachel Johnson recently wrote an article when Ghislaine Maxwell was she was in the news because she was on trial for sex trafficking minors. She got found guilty. And Rachel Johnson thought, oh, I've got a good anecdote I can tell about this. I remember once walking into a common room in Oxford University when she had her hand on my brother's knee. No one would reveal that unless you are just obsessed with people talking about you because it's so bizarre.